Hello. Hey, everyone. Hey, Dee Dee. Thanks for tuning in. So, we are on episode two of Beyond the Surface with Sharon. So, we are live here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you guys want to put a hey in the comments so I can see who's here. Hey, Jesse. Yeah. Let me see who's here and who's tuning in for episode number 2 with our therapist, our favorite therapist. She's like our resident. Oh, you the first one here. Oh, look what I got for you. Boom. Look at that. So thank you all for tuning in. Hey, Boo. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 2. We have our neighborhood therapist here. We have Jen Owens in the building. She is going to encourage and empower us here at Beyond the Surface with Sharon. I am so excited. Black community, y'all know how we are about therapy. So we are going to get beyond the surface. We're going to go a little bit lower, take a couple layers off of, some regular stuff that we talk about. We're going to talk about some parenting. We're going to talk about some therapy with kids. We're going to talk about like relationship boundaries. Hey, Darlene. So yeah, we have a few things to talk about today. So I am excited. Are y'all enjoying this weather? Let me get myself together. Oh, wait, because look. So I have my Walmart bra on today for y'all. This is, I don't know if y'all can see, but yes, this is my Walmart bra. I was bragging about when we went to on my Facebook post for you guys to go get. So yeah, she doing me good tonight. So yeah, are y'all enjoying the weather? It's a little rainy, a little dreary, but yeah, So thank you all for tuning in. We are going to, why is it cold here? So Darlene is here. Yeah. So Darlene, it's really been a little funky here, dreary. I know you're from Jacksonville or live in Jacksonville, but yeah, it's a little cold here. A little rainy weather. But thank you guys for tuning in to Beyond the Surface, where we are out here trying to give you information. Oh, wait, is that my mama? Oh, hey, Mom. Oh, hey, Shannon. Thank you guys for tuning in. So we have our resident. I am going to bring her on. I want to wait a couple minutes for a couple people to come on. So we are, oh, it's Shan. No, Shan, there is a Shannon. There's a Shannon Elizabeth that said hi. Oh, love you, girl. Oh, yes, go get the bride tomorrow. Y'all see me, right? She's sitting good. She doing right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did just go to Jacksonville. Yeah, so look at my people talking to my people. So yeah, we have our resident therapist in. Thank you all for tuning in with Jen. How many of you really like go to therapy? Me, I've been to therapy a few times. Ron's been to therapy a few times, but a lot of Black people, shy a little bit away from it. But we're going to talk about that today. So today on Beyond the Surface with Sharon, we have Jennifer Owens. Here, let's bring her to the stage.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Applauso. Thank you, Jen. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your love for therapy. Like you really like therapy. What's the word? You give us therapy.
We're just gonna say therapize, y'all.
I made up a word. I'm on Machine and Sharp.
I be therapizing y'all.
Therapizing me. So I really loved when you came to my cousin's Derek's his fundraiser and you just talked about suicide and therapy and how it's a stigma in the Black community. So like from there, I was like, we definitely need to talk about it. We definitely need to get the word out that it's not like a little, it's not you on your way to the cuckoo farm.
Yeah.
It's have therapy.
Yes.
You want to introduce yourself to the folks?
Well, yeah. I'm Jennifer Owens. I'm a licensed associate counselor, licensed clinical drug and alcohol counselor, and national certified counselor. I've
So
been
all
working in
of
the
that
field.
entail,
So all that entails many years of school and training and coins.
right? Good morning.
But what that technically means is that I am licensed to provide therapeutic services for people with mental health diagnoses and substance use disorders.
And how many years have you been doing this?
So I've been in the drug and alcohol field. That was my specialty first, and I've been in that field a total of 15 years. And drug and alcohol is a mental health disorder. It's in the same
Yeah.
diagnostic manual as every other mental health disorder. So, alongside people that have these drug and alcohol addictions, they also have depression, anxiety, schizophrenia,
Mhm.
bipolar disorder, borderline, things like that. So, I've been in the field total for 15 years.
So you deal with all of those types of things?
I do, in different areas. So right now, I work full time for the Superior Court of New Jersey, and I provide evaluations. I do the substance abuse evaluations
Mhm.
and link people to drug and alcohol treatment
Awesome.
for them. I see children in home for crisis counseling, and I see adults for outpatient mental health counseling. So I got a couple jobs, y'all.
So can we talk about therapy and kids? Because I always feel like therapy and like kids should go to therapy to kind of get some stuff off their chest because I don't know if they know how to communicate properly.
Mm.
Like, they'll be a little nervous to talk to their parents or a little hesitant. So what do you think about kids in therapy and how young should they start?
Well, I think it depends. I think some children need therapy because of experiences that they've had. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that all children need to go to therapy. I would say that all children need to know how to identify their feelings and then how to regulate them on their own.
Okay.
And a lot of times children don't learn how to do that because the parents don't know how to do that.
Right.
So if what we learn mostly comes from our parents or the adults in our lives, I should say, and they don't know how to do that, then obviously we're not learning that either as children.
Correct.
So I think it is important for children to be exposed to therapy, to know that it's out there, and for parents to set them up with services when necessary. I've seen children as young as 4 years old. I haven't seen any child
Wow.
younger than that. But yeah, 4 years old, transition into five is the youngest that I've seen a child in therapy.
Parent, how would you know like you should recommend your kid for therapy?
Yeah, behaviors.
Like,
Behaviors. Yeah, like ideally we know our kids
mhm,
baseline. And
right.
when that's a little off, then maybe we should explore what options are there for us.
Like if they're acting
So
a little bit more than
yeah,
normal.
maybe shutting down. Sometimes we often look at the kid that's rah 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 acting out, getting suspended from school, causing havoc at home, doing things like self-harming, like these major things. We we look for those behaviors like, okay, you need to see someone, you need to talk to someone because
Right.
you're not acting right. And we don't pay attention to the quiet child, to the
To the
child that's
quiet.
actually doing
Right.
really well in school. Their
Yeah.
grades are good, but they still pretty quiet and reserved. We just think they're just well behaved, and a lot of times those kids are suffering. Um,
So it should be up to the parent to pay attention to like the kids' behaviors and how they're acting, like you just said, and then just recommend them. I mean, most insurances are covered, right? Most insurance covers therapy.
well, not only up to the parents, but up to the village as a whole. Sometimes the parents doesn't recognize it. It's
I
not
love
showing up at home. Maybe it's showing up at school. Maybe it's showing up
that.
when they're with their coaches or with someone else's family or friends set. And someone comes to you as a parent and says, "Hey, I noticed that little Johnny is doing these things." And so it's not that us as parents, we're not always going to see it. And that's
Mhm.
okay. But when someone comes to you and shares their feedback, it's important to listen and consider.
And be
Yeah, and then
receptive of the information.
yeah, be
'Cause
receptive of the
sometimes my
information.
baby, he not doing none of that.
Woo!
Do
Yes,
you
he
get a lot
is.
of kids?
Yes, he
You
is.
get yeah. Because
Right.
kids act different when they're not with their parent.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. And sometimes they disclose
That's
things
what
to
I'm
other
always
people.
around. I used to be
Listen,
mad, but
they're
I knew she was going to lay down the law
for
with the
real.
switch. It was good around her. So she would be very surprised when people would say, "Oh, your daughter was cutting up." And I was like, not me,
Yeah,
mom. Because she only knew the
absolutely.
good me.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's not us that's going to recognize it, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be guilt associated with that. You just have to be receptive. As far as insurance goes, it can be tricky. Not all agencies that provide counseling services take insurance. Some are
Hmm.
self-pay. They don't want to deal with the logistics of insurance companies, so they
Okay.
only take cash, right?
Yeah.
Some agencies only take certain insurances for whatever reason. So it's very important to know like what therapists, what counseling agencies accept your
Right.
insurance. And the best way to do that is to really go on your insurance website, look for
Hmm.
behavioral health, and then there should be a vast list provided by your insurance carrier
Right.
um, with people that provide services that actually accept your insurance.
So if kids are experience like maybe some life changing things like divorce or like
Mhm.
separate homes, like should they, is that recommended, that type of thing? Is
Yeah,
that
for
recommended for
me, I
them?
think it is because
Hmm.
adjustment is a big deal. A lot of times when we see kids, when I see kids, I'll speak for myself. When I see kids in therapy, it's because they have an adjustment disorder. I mean, something changed. There was a major shift in their life. And
Got you.
I don't know where this statement came from, but I hear it all the time that children are resilient and they'll just bounce back and it's not a big deal.
Right,
They
right.
just kind of fall in line. Yeah, because they live up to the expectations of the people around them. So if
That's
people expect them to fall in line and act
then they
accordingly, then
do.
that's what they're going to do. And
Right.
most of the time they're fighting tooth and nail to do that and to maintain that baseline for you because
Right.
that is the expectation. They don't want to step out of that. Um, so yes, those major transitions, changing schools,
Hmm.
yeah,
That's
divorce,
one.
that's a big one.
Schools.
There's the kids that move a lot. I moved a lot when I was younger. Looking back, I realized I moved a
Yeah.
lot. And it affects you, your group of friends, the atmosphere, the culture
Mhm.
of the school could be different. The neighborhood is different, you know.
Oh, that makes sense because my mom moved us from Woodbine, which is a predominantly Black and Puerto Rican neighborhood, to Millville, and it was culture shock for me.
Mhm.
I've never seen that many white people
Mhm.
in Woodbine. It was only maybe 20 in the whole school. So to go from
Wow.
the majority of being the minority people are the majority, and now I'm like two of Black people in the classroom, it was a shock for me. My grades
Mhm.
tanked. It was so
Mhm.
I can definitely sympathize with what you're saying and relate to what you're saying because I probably should have been in therapy at that point. But yeah, so I can say like if you're moving or if you're changing schools with your kids or you're leaving a neighborhood or whatever that case is, definitely take your kid to therapy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let them explore talking to someone else, being listened to, being introduced to techniques and skills that's only going to build them up later on in life.
Yeah. So what do you think about, so we're going to talk, can we talk boundaries? Because
Yeah,
I know a lot of people like boundaries or they say I'm putting up my boundaries. I have my boundaries set this year. You know,
yeah,
new year, new me.
right.
So ba- our boundaries are healthy, yes.
They are. They can be
Okay.
healthy. They can
So
be
can
unhealthy.
they be unhealthy? Like can you have
And
too many boundaries? Like are you doing a lot?
your boundaries can be unhealthy when they're only known to you
Ooh,
and they're not communicated effectively,
mhm.
when they're not attached to a consequence and when they're too rigid and you have no flexibility.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's when boundaries get a little unhealthy, right? And I think people have associated boundaries with like cutting things off, and that's
Yes.
not
Cut
necessarily
people
what
off,
boundaries
cut my
is.
thoughts off. I'm cutting the negativity off.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
nobody's coming over here in my little circle.
yes, it's like a bomb shelter. When I hear
Yes,
people,
there's peace here.
yeah,
What you're saying. You're saying
I
there's
mean,
peace here.
most fences have a opening, like
Right, right.
hey. Yeah, it's like a
Yes,
bomb
it is.
shelter when I hear people talk about it like that.
So, as far as can we talk boundaries with, what are healthy boundaries?
So there's different type of boundaries. That's
Okay.
another thing. Sometimes I think as humans, we don't really break stuff down and we kind of just generalize it and that's that. But
Mhm.
there's so many boundaries. Like, are you talking a physical boundary? Are we talking spiritual boundaries, emotional boundaries? What type of boundary are you putting up? And with who? I think it's very important, number one, to know your priority.
Right.
What type of boundary is this? Knowing that the boundary is for you, it
Hmm.
isn't about someone else. It's for you, right? What are you getting from instituting this boundary? And then communicating that clearly. So if I have a boundary with
Hmm.
you, Sharon, and
Yes.
you don't know about it,
Okay.
it's not communicated. Um, that's not really healthy.
So it's your boundary, but I have no clue about this boundary
Yes, you have no clue about it, so you can't respect it.
at all because I
No,
have no idea.
you
It's
don't
a
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
it's up to the person to communicate that who they. So is that a healthy conversation they should have?
it could be an uncomfortable conversation, but it is a healthy conversation.
So
Most
how do you have that?
That's tough. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the individuals that are involved. So let's use an example. Let me see.
Because I always have a tough time with my I don't want to say my boundaries, but me having uncomfortable conversations to say, hey, this is how you made me feel. I don't like that feeling. I would like you to respect these feelings. And the person could be like, well, that's how I always treated you. This is just how I am. And
Oh,
I've been
that's
doing
this is how I am.
I've been doing this for how many ever million years. And
Yeah.
expect you to just kind of suck that up because that's how they are. Is So is that like, how do you navigate that?
Well, when people are going to be who they are, but
Hmm.
communicating that just because that's how you are and you're okay with it, I am not.
Right.
I am not okay with it. And when you treat me that way, in order to protect whatever I need to protect over here,
Hmm.
this is going to be the consequence for that.
So do you tell them you want changed behavior, or do you just wait for it to happen? Because some people are like, well, I'm not going to change. I just,
This isn't about them changing.
Hmm.
This is about you changing.
Ah, good.
This isn't about them changing. This is
Hmm.
about you changing. You it boundaries is very tricky. Everybody thinks it, not everybody, but a lot of people think it's about the other person. It is not. It is
Okay.
about you. What is it that you're protecting? What are you keeping yourself from? Or what are you putting in place so that you don't have to experience what happens when you don't have this boundary?
Right.
So, right. People say just leave people alone, just cut them off. And sometimes that just can't be the case. What if it's your child? Do you have to have
Because
boundaries with your child?
yeah.
Are you going to
Okay.
cut your
That's tough
child
too.
off? I mean, child. I'm not even talking about adult children yet. I'm talking about your child,
A little person.
a little person. So, are
Okay.
you going to cut your minor child off because they're crossing boundaries with you? Can children cross boundaries with their parents? Yeah, they can. Very
Ah,
much so. So let's look at it from that point, because the first
okay.
thing people are going to say is cut people off, leave them alone, don't talk to them.
Right.
And okay, so let's look at it from a standpoint of someone that you probably wouldn't cut off, which is your child.
Right.
Maybe your teenage daughter constantly comes in your room and takes your perfume and your red lipstick.
Yes. Which you're very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Right? She continues to do. This is a very, very basic example, right?
Okay.
Because we know we could get deeper into this, but this is
Right.
basic. The only reason why I'm giving this example is because I don't want people to believe that boundaries is all about cutting people off, because that's not what
Okay.
it is.
Right.
I'm giving this example so people can know that you can institute a boundary and it can create a better relationship. It could bring someone closer. right? It can make your relationship better with communication and knowing each other's expectations and respecting those expectations.
Because you've
So,
created the boundary.
right, right. So if it frustrates me every time I go to find my red lipstick and it's in my daughter's room and we have an argument about it or have to stomp in there, still take it back, tell her how she's always in my space and she constantly does it, right? Nothing changes.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
communicate to her, listen, when you come into my space, I feel violated because you didn't ask. And if you ask, then if I choose, I will share it with you. But from now on, don't enter my room without asking. Do not remove my things. If you do, you're going to be on punishment. Boom. We got a consequence. We have the expectation set, and I communicated it clearly.
I love that. And you were calm. Like it wasn't like irate. I'm finna you if you come in here.
Right. Because
Yeah.
that's how it gets. It's like, why
Delivery.
you keep taking my stuff? What is wrong with you? Don't you
Right.
hear me telling you? Like, nothing's happened. All I do is keep coming in there yelling, which most kids are used to their parents yelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't really frighten them, right? It doesn't frighten most children when their parents get to, if anything, they're just like get annoyed. But I keep coming there saying, oh my God, you keep taking my stuff. What is wrong with you? Take it back, stomp back in. Next week, same thing, same thing. There's been no consequence.
Right, right.
There is nothing set in place here. There's been no clear communication. You think you're communicating, but you're not. You're just speaking at someone, and that's it. That wasn't a
Love that.
conversation. It wasn't communication.
And you give it to them clear and you give them the consequences. And this could not necessarily only be for children. It's just for people in general.
It's for people in general. Right. But we use that basic one because I am not going to leave this podcast with people believing that boundaries is about cutting people off.
Right. Thank you. Did everybody hear that? Can you repeat that for me, ma'am? They said cut them off in the comments.
I'm not saying that you don't need to cut some people off. I'm just saying that boundaries is not about cutting people off. It's about knowing your priorities, communicating them clearly, having a consequence if those expectations that you set and communicated clearly are violated, and following through with it. And that's what boundaries is about.
Yeah. So, and Jess just put in her comment that she just had to learn not to be a yeller because her mom was a yeller. And it is like learned behavior of, what your parents, how you're raised. So you kind of like do the same thing.
You do. It's called what we all call generational curses. I call it generational habit.
Habits. I like that.
I call it a habit. It's something that you learn.
Yeah.
It's not something that the voodoo witch came down and said, "Wow, that's for your family."
Right.
No, it's what you learn. It's what
happened.
Yeah, it evolves over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like your parent isn't a talker, so you're really not a talker or a big communicator. That's like a habit or learned behavior.
Yep.
Or your dad is a worker, but he's not really affectionate. So that's learned behavior.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's what happened. What's happened to me, therapist Jen.
What happened to you, girl?
I was not an affectionate person. Like my dad is an affectionate person. Live with my mom. She was like worker. She's going to work. She's trying to pay these bills, take care of these kids. We home by ourselves, latchkeying, waking up, cooking, cleaning. Y'all know 70s, 80s. So it was really hard to like effectively communicate with my kids because I really didn't know how. I knew to go to work, pay the bills, hard worker, come home, feed kids, put them in bed, repeat, recycle, repeat. And I think, as an adult now, I understand like I didn't give them, you live, you learn.
You live and you learn. Yeah.
And I know I communicate now with them so much better.
What a gift. What a gift to live and learn and practice differently.
Yeah. And they are communicating better with theirs. So, and I communicate a lot better with the grandkids because now I'm like, so let's talk about your feelings. Why do you feel like that?
Yes. I see generational habits changing. Yes, the habits are
Yeah.
changing because you changed and you actively did something different. And your kids can see it, and your kids are actively doing something different. And in turn, that will
Mhm.
follow your grandkids and their kids to come. I also wasn't, I'm still not, I'm not a very affectionate, physically affectionate person.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
my family wasn't, my parents were not physically affectionate. And that's just what it is. I knew what love was
Right.
because they cared for me, they took care of me,
Yeah.
they provided for me, it was more acts of service home, like, oh
I
yeah,
like that.
I got you, you're
Mhm.
good, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I passed on. And my husband and I joke often that we have two hood kids and two suburban kids.
You do
We
say
have
that.
raised together. They experience two different sets of parents because
Mhm.
we've grown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it happens. But when you see it, if you change it, you're good.
So how can we as parents, and it's some younger parents on here, can you like communicate effectively with your kid, like when they're having like some type of, they don't want to communicate or they're having issues. Like, how do you say, okay, because I seen the one lady and she told her, she puts her son on the dryer or whatever and tells him to breathe deep, like do deep
Oh, I
breathing
love it.
techniques. And it kind of
Mhm.
like calms him down and lets him like get in touch with his feelings because she told him it's okay to feel that way. Just get in control of them. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
I
That
love
was,
that.
it was really refreshing to see because it's okay to have feelings.
It is. I love that statement. It's okay to have feelings. I like to say you gonna have feelings whether you acknowledge them or not.
Ooh, hello.
It's got to be okay because you want to have them regardless. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you acknowledge them or not. They're going to be there. They're going to show up, and you're going to act because of it.
Hmm.
Um, I think a good way to work with your kids is to one work on yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
You sometimes we have such expectations of our kids that we don't have of ourselves, or we don't display those behaviors. We don't display those techniques,
Hmm.
right?
Going back to the
Um,
habit, the
Go
learned
back
habit.
to the fact. Yeah. So you yell at your kids when you get frustrated, and then the brother is yelling at the sister when he's frustrated. You're like, don't yell at her. What are you yelling at her for?
Right.
Is that what we do? That's
Right.
not what we do when we get frustrated. We yell at each other,
Yeah.
right? But we have an expectation of them not to do those things. So I think the best way to help your kids when it comes to communication and identifying and expressing their feelings is for you to be able to learn how to do that. Most adults that I see can't name 10 feelings.
What's
I'll
what?
say,
What do you mean?
you can't name 10 feelings. All we got is happy, sad, angry, maybe lonely as the top, maybe the top ones that I get.
Hmm.
And after that, it's not really more that is in their vocabulary, but you experience a lot more. So
Right.
if you're unable to identify it, how do you express it? How do you verbally express it? And then what do you do about it?
And that literally leads over into our adult relationships with our spouses, with our child.
Yes,
It
it's
literally it does.
everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere. Let's think about it like this. I'm a visual person. When I see things, I learn better.
Hmm.
So I give analogies and stuff a lot in therapy, and I talk to my clients about their roots. What
Okay.
do your roots look like? What are some of the experiences you've had that planted the seeds that formed these roots that grew this tree
Hmm.
that bore this fruit? The fruit is the behaviors, the way
Okay.
you show up, the way you react, the way you carry yourself, right? The roots is all those things that move from Woodbine to Millville,
Right.
right? A divorce, a marriage, a sexual abuse, physical abuse,
Hmm.
um, it just tons of things are the roots. All of those things, right? You know how roots look.
Right.
You take that
Right.
plant out
They
the
are.
pot, they're like, yes,
Yes.
all of
Entangled.
that. That's our foundation, right? That's what helps us. That's what, whether or not we wanted to, that's what helps create us.
Hmm.
And we take it with us wherever we go, wherever we go. And this fruit that comes from the tree is not always beautiful. It's not always fresh. It's not always
Right.
tasty,
Yeah.
right?
It's sour
So
sometimes.
it's sour sometimes. But then what happens? We say, that's just how I am. That's just who I am.
This is me. Take me or leave it.
Those roots are never properly watered, not fertilized.
Yeah.
So we continue to grow the same sour, rotten fruit. And everybody gets a taste of it, whether they like it or not.
So how can the relationships as in, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, how do you, I don't know, y'all don't want to say send your spouse to therapy, but how can do you try to therapize? Here's my word
Let's
again.
therapize that man. Let me see your roots.
What do your roots look like? They dusty. So what do you do? What are your steps? How do you communicate and that there is a problem with your roots? Because I think as spouses and partners, we can see like, hey, there's something hidden or there's something a little deep that you're not like really in touch with, or you're kind of brushing under the rug. And for me, I want to go, like you said, to the root, so that way we can see what the issue is or what the problem is, or even what the experience is, and then just trying to kind of figure it out. Not that I'm a therapist or anything. These are all my thoughts on my own, but just trying to figure it out to say, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about it. Because I want to just get right down to whatever it is. I mean, this is me at over 50. Under 50, I wasn't looking for your roots. Will you just be how you are, and I'm gonna be
that
how
fruit
I
was
am.
looking all right.
It was okay. It was.
We can go from there.
Yeah, I'm riding over here too. Just two little rotten trees together. I know.
For real, it's like that. That's hard when it comes to adult spouses, whether it doesn't matter, to adults trying to have a honest conversation. You
Even
would think it's
stuff,
easy.
right?
It's not easy. People get offended. People feel attacked, and it could be very difficult. So I like to say, try your best to keep it on the I, right? Versus your roots is messed up. Like
Right.
and I know it's because of your daddy. Because I said, okay, these might all be valid points, but whoa, we're definitely not going to get anywhere like that, right? So it's very important to kind of keep it on the eye. Like, I noticed that when this happens, you respond like this. Did you ever notice that? Has there ever been a concern of yours?
Right? Tone.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, keeping it on the eye is so important because it's so easy to feel offended and attacked and take things personal. So saying things about your partner that are true, but not in a you, something's wrong with you type of way.
Yeah.
Right. Leading with compassion, and making sure not to have those conversations in anger. Because I mean, you get angry. It just is what it is. But taking an opportunity to have a conversation then is usually not the best approach for anyone, whether it's your supervisor, your kids, your spouse. It doesn't matter. It never really ends well. So trying to just keep it on the eye and recognizing, like, what do you see as a result of this? Like, what do you see happening? Yes.
Okay.
Like, what do you notice this? Because I noticed that sometimes you
Right.
And when you do that, blah blah blah. Right. It's
I think that goes back to the roots part. There is like how you grow up. So there is something that causes you to act this way, or this is your response. Maybe not act this way. This is your response to whatever the particular situation is.
Yes. Right. Like, say we're dealing with someone with jealousy or something. Like, I noticed that every time I go with my friends, when I come home, you seem a little tense. Like, let's talk about it. Like, do you notice that? You know, you don't need to be a therapist to communicate effectively.
Okay, that's good.
Because just because you're a therapist don't mean you communicate effectively. Like, I have off days in my home, okay? Like that, I'm not a therapist in my home. Effective communication isn't about being a therapist. So trying to keep it on the eye and the issue. We're not attacking the person. We're focusing in on this issue, right? And trying to bring it to their attention. 9 times out of 10, people know. 9 times out of 10, they already know.
People do know because this
People do
one
know.
person, I'm gonna be specific about this one person. The one person was like, they said that I needed to heal. You're being offensive to me, and you tell me I need to heal. Like, how do I? You just say, "Oh, okay, I guess I need to heal," but their behavior is still like the same, and it's
Mm.
not helping. Like, so do you just? That's the boundaries thing. I won't cut this person off, but I
If
just
you choose not to. If that's not what you wanna do,
okay,
right?
okay,
Because
mhm,
I said, like, a few minutes ago, I'm not saying don't cut people off.
right,
I'm saying that a boundary doesn't mean you're cutting people off.
right, okay,
Right. Yeah, that's not what a boundary is.
okay,
So, let's talk about this person that you're mentioning. They said you need
okay.
to heal or they need to heal?
They said I need me. I need to
Oh,
heal. I told them that they were offending me, and I didn't like how they were behaving because it's been years that they continued to treat me a certain way, and I was like, I didn't like it, and it was like, well, maybe you're not healed.
oh,
Yeah,
that's tough.
right.
Yeah.
But as I said, I will continue to go around, the family. But however, like for me, I adjust with how people are. Like I'll be like, okay, this is very surfacey. So I'll just have a surfacey relationship with these
Okay.
people.
You're just being cordial.
I'm being cordial, but I
Mhm.
just make sure I am far away from the situation with my feelings that they're not going to get hurt. Is
Okay.
that healthy?
That's a boundary.
That's about
That's
good.
an emotional boundary. You're saying, I'm not going to
Right.
dive into a deeper relationship with this individual because I'm not getting what I need from it. So I'm
Right.
just going to be cordial and respectful when I'm in their presence, but we'll have nothing beyond that.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So here we have a question on the screen from one of our viewers, Trish
Okay.
Jacob. She says, how do you handle family members as you personally seek therapy and become more healed
Hmm.
as your family remains, she'd say, stuck?
Ooh,
That's a good
how do
question.
you handle them? We don't handle, we don't really handle people,
Come on, therapist.
but I get what you're saying, Trish. But we don't handle people. We handle ourselves. And as we grow and change and heal and things like that, you start to see stuff different. Your perspective starts to be a little bit different.
Right.
And the people around you notice that things are different too. And they don't always respond the best or the way we may expect them to respond. We're not handling them. We're handling ourselves.
Got
How
you.
do I want to interact with them now? How do
Because
I
you're
want
on
to
a
interact?
different journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do I want to do? How do I want this relationship to look? I'm not handling you. That's your job, right? But
Hmm.
I'm going to handle me and I'm going
Right.
to decide what I want this to look like. Now, if this is a relationship that I want to grow and it is super meaningful to me, then I want to communicate with
Right.
them if their behavior and the things that they're doing is affecting me,
Sure.
right?
Hmm.
And go from there. But we don't handle people. Some people are going to be stuck. And it's not our job to fix that.
Because we want them to be unstuck.
We
Because we want them
do.
to enjoy this freedom that they have that's available to them.
And they have to want that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because I always be like, hey, there's more on the other side. Like and I don't know if I want to be like being judgmental or whatever the case is, but I always want to give the information, say, hey, you can do better. I know you can do better.
Oh God, we sound like the same person.
Who grew up in Woodbine.
My kids got me a sign that says, I'm not bossy, I'm aggressively helpful.
Hello. I like it.
Yes, and I have to check myself because I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, yes, you can do this, you can do that. It's not a big deal. Go ahead and try it. Here, you want me to look it up for you? I'll send you 50 articles. I'll send you the link.
Right.
I'll do this and that. And
I
it's
feel
the
they are
ball is
ready.
in the court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a good question from Jasmine Pumpkin. It says, what about when one is growing in a relationship and the other isn't, or they're not in tune with their self, or just content and no goals? I think that happens a lot in relationships where people, well, I've learned that people grow. So sometimes you're not growing this way. Like sometimes relationships, you grow this way because of your growth. And I don't want to be the therapist here, but you could go ahead.
No. Just because you're sharing what you learned doesn't mean you're being a therapist. You're just being a human being that has learned. Learned things and you're sharing them, and that's okay. That's a really good question. And I think communication. I can't scream it enough from the rooftops that we don't communicate as a society. We think we do.
Wow.
We think we communicate because we know what's in our mind. And don't be with someone for a long time, or be friends with someone for a long time, or be in an intimate relationship with someone for a long time. When that happens, we think that people know.
Yes.
And people don't know
at all.
People don't know.
Like,
so
you know me. You know me. You know how I be.
Hello, we've been together this long. Like, what's wrong with you?
Why don't you know this? Yeah.
Yes. But that is so hard, being in a relationship and you have these goals and you're setting them and you're meeting them and your partner's not in your eyes. In your eyes, they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. It's very difficult, but communication and sharing what you see from your perspective. The only thing I can say about that generally is you have to communicate with your partner. If you're communicating with your partner and you share your expectations and you guys begin to be on the same, have a same understanding of what you see, and then nothing's changing, then you may have to go a different route or do what's best for you. But if you see it and you're just laying your, this dude's still doing the same thing, he's doing nothing, like, what is going on? But you never had a real conversation about it, then
because what if you're hustling and you're doing all of this and he or she, it could be either way, and the other person is just like, oh, I'm not doing that right now, it's not my season. You can go ahead and do all of that. That is a hard relationship to stay in.
It is.
So I guess it's up to the person.
It's always going to be up to the person to do what it is they're going to want to do, but it is up to us to communicate what we expect, what we want, and what we see.
Right.
Right. Like that is your job in that situation. You can't do nothing about what they decide to do. As much as you think you cannot. That is on them. That is their job to do. However, your job is to communicate what you want, what you see, what your expectations are. Right. And then if those things are not met, then you have to make the best decision for yourself.
Because you're only responsible for yourself.
You're responsible for yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question here from Darlene Wallace. She said, how do you set boundaries for people you know will not change, because you know it's who they are, but you want them in your life, like family people? Like, they're not going to change, but you still want them in your life. How do you set those type of boundaries?
It's tough to say, because sometimes people are involved in things that you can't have in your life, right?
Wow.
And so you have to make a decision for you, based on whatever it is they're doing. But if it's something that not to that degree of severity, then we go back to knowing your priorities, communicating them clearly, right, verbally,
right,
and then having a consequence if that's not met, if those expectations aren't met. Then I'll give you an example. My husband and I don't smoke. Many people in my family smoke weed, they smoke cigarettes. We don't smoke. We usually host like a barbecue every summer. Like, we don't smoke to the point like you can't smoke on our deck. You can't smoke near our home. So we have a big enough yard, but you can smoke over there. So am I not going to invite the people that smoke to the barbecue? because this is a very basic example, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time when people talking boundaries is big stuff, but this is basic, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I love my family. I love my family members that smoke. Yes, you can come to the barbecue, but that's the designated smoking
That's the
area.
smoking area over there. Right.
That's it,
Yeah.
right? It's communicated
Yeah.
clearly. I
That's
know
good,
my
the communication.
priorities. I'm not
Mhm.
bending them because I don't want that smell lingering in my house or anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And that's it,
It's the
So
communication.
yes, it
So
just
what if people aren't just so accepting of the communication? They kind of feel like you're like blowing smoke and, oh, you're always on this
what's the
because
consequence?
it's the consequence. So who suffers because I guess you as a person, you would miss the relationship that you have with the people, right?
Would you? I don't know, right?
Oh,
If
well, that
you
is a good
decided
question.
what the boundary is and what the expectation is, and you set a consequence, that means that
Mhm.
that's your priority and you're okay with it. Are you going to be uncomfortable if the person decides not to respect it? Probably so. But what is more important? That's what you have
Right.
to decide. Is
Yeah.
it your priorities and what you need for yourself, or is it the relationship?
Yeah. Okay.
It is
Okay.
not easy.
Yeah.
It's not like these
They're
buzzwords are
difficult.
cute.
Yeah.
They're cute. I'm setting my boundaries. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Yeah, okay. Well, with your setting your boundaries comes consequences.
And the
It comes
reality is I'm
consequences.
going to miss these people from my life.
Yeah, sometimes that's going to be the
Yeah.
reality of it. And
But it's the I and it's what it is that you want.
it's what you set your priority,
You set your priorities.
right?
Okay.
And you have to decide how flexible you want to be with it or not. And it's kind of hard to, this is very generalized. If you have specific situations, it's easier to talk it through and work it out. Like if you're in therapy, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to reflect
Mhm.
because a lot of therapy is reflection. It's like, how often do you really sit down and thoroughly think out the things that you've experienced and talked about them in a place that's unbiased, where people aren't trying to give you opinion and definitely not judging where you're at and what you're thinking and what you experienced. It doesn't happen usually day to day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that leads right into segue right onto the screen. It says, let's talk about personal therapy. Like, how do you know you need therapy? And like you're saying, it is a an unbiased place where you can go and you can get these feelings out and your thoughts. And I'm sure everyone has something that's deep down hidden that they need to kind
Right.
of get to the root of whatever something is.
Yeah.
So should most people be in therapy?
Yeah.
Yes, everybody sign up for the Jubilee.
Say that. And not because everybody has a traumatic experience,
Right.
not because everyone has a mental health diagnosis.
Mhm.
That's not why. Um, sometimes you have life transformations. Just
Yeah.
sometimes you just have a transitional period. It's just so many reasons why you can
Yeah.
seek therapy, and it's not because you're crazy,
Right.
because you hear voices.
Yeah.
Nine times out of 10, that is not why someone's entering therapy,
Right.
right? Um, so if you're having like a lot of overwhelming feelings that you haven't been able to manage, or you find yourself managing them in an unhealthy way,
Or
um,
stress, and then you start to drinking a lot, that
yeah,
type
you
of thing.
start drinking, or you start missing work, or you're not organized at work as you used to be. You start being
Mhm.
really snappy or real isolated. You're avoiding social gatherings. You notice that you've lost a lot of weight. You're not eating the way you used to, or you've gained a lot of weight.
Right.
You're overeating. You're overthinking. Just certain behaviors. Maybe you're cutting. Self
Mhm.
harm. You're having thoughts of harming yourself or harming someone else. Um,
You're just
it's
and angry. Like, you're just angry all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially a lot of Black women that I see, when they're angry all the time, they're depressed. Irritability and anger is a huge sign of depression, especially in
Wow.
Black women. So
Okay.
that angry Black woman is probably stressed and depressed.
Okay. That's deep.
Why you say
That's a lot.
that? You see?
Because it's so many, I don't wanna say we're angry, but we have the stigma of being angry, and I'm sure it's a lot of stress, and a lot of us are out here like working and kids and family and
Surviving.
surviving.
Yeah.
Survival is the stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I'm finna be in tears over here. Because it's sad that that we have to survive. Like you're in survival mode.
You are.
Yes.
You are. I said, reflecting in my own therapy, and
Hmm.
yes, your neighborhood therapist goes to therapy, um, because I
Wow.
think it's so important to reflect. It's
Hmm.
important to see things from other perspectives. It's important to dissect and learn new skills, because maybe the skills you were using for a long time aren't working anymore. But I learned
I like
that
that.
I had been in survival mode since I was 16 years old, since
Wow.
I had had my first pregnancy and child. That from that point forward, I figured out that I needed to do whatever I had to do to make sure her and I were okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And along the way, it wasn't going to be a lot of time for thinking. I just had to do. And
Right.
then I picked that up and ran with it. And that was my fruit. And that was my fruit everywhere. Everywhere. Anything that I did, it was not a lot of thinking. It was just a lot of doing.
Doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything fast.
So the how do we so survival mode? How can we get some tools here? How can we
Mhm.
come out of survival mode? Let's go into therapy is our first step.
Um, I'm going to advocate for therapy. I just am. I'm going to
Yeah.
advocate for therapy, not because I'm a therapist, but because I think healing is so vital, and we all have an area to heal. I think that being heard and listened to is so important, and it just doesn't happen. It
Yeah.
just doesn't happen. Who's listening to the mother with 4 kids who's an executive at her job, who brings home however much money in her salary? Um, who is she talking to?
Right.
Who's listening to the mom who is getting any type of social assistance, who has 3 kids, she's single, she's working, she's trying to find a job and trying to enroll in school? Who is she talking to? I mean, talking to, okay?
Right.
That's different than what we do with our friends. I've had
Because
friends
we
that
do
I've been
consume that.
friends with for years, for over
Yeah.
20 years, that I noticed that I hadn't truly been vulnerable with. I hadn't really shared some stuff with until after I had gone through it and
Mm.
figured it out.
Wow.
And I mean, maybe way after, right? So, who are you talking to? Who are you get a chance to reflect with? Where are you learning these skills from? I think everybody. Who is listening to the man who is the head of the household,
Right.
who is expected to make sure that financially their family stays afloat, who maybe is a Black man
Mm.
and has maybe worked in law enforcement his whole life, and during this movement where everybody finally saw police brutality against Black men and women, has to also protect people but have fear of it happening to him when he's not in uniform. Who talks to these people? Who listens
Right.
to these people? Right? Therapy is so needed in our community, the Black
Hmm.
community. Now, I'm not icing out our counterparts
Right.
doing that. What I'm saying is that our community has been isolated from this service for years because we didn't have enough representation.
Hmm.
Sometimes the services are nowhere to be found. So not only can you can't find a place. If you find a place, there's no one there that looks like you, understands your cultural beliefs, um, or you just maybe don't feel comfortable, right?
Right.
Maybe for the men, there's no men therapists, right?
Right.
Maybe it's only
Because
all
men
women
feel
at that
comfortable with
practice,
men.
right? Maybe your insurance isn't the best, and your copay is $75 a session for therapy, and you got to go every week. Now, that may not sound like a lot to some people, but it's a lot every week.
Dinner for family, like
Exactly.
gas. Yeah.
Right? You have to get there, you have to pay this copay. There's a lot of barriers to therapy overall.
Right.
And then the main one for us is just stigma. It's stigmatizing across many cultures. It is not just ours. Many cultures. The idea of going into therapy and telling someone your business
Right.
is
'Cause keep it in
unheard
the
of.
house.
Yes, keep it in the house. That is not for everyone to know, right? And that's the first misconception there. Who is everyone?
Right.
Everyone ain't gonna know. I'm
Because you
gonna
out there
meet with
telling
this.
the family business.
Right. I'm telling my therapist who's bound federally to not speak a word of this,
Okay.
right? So I think that is one of the first steps is to consider going to therapy to explore what your options are.
Hmm. Especially after like you said, a traumatic thing has happened where
Yeah.
COVID really
Whoa.
affected a lot of people with
That was crazy.
anxiety. People
Hmm.
who didn't have anxiety are now a little leery of going out in public,
Yeah.
even with like the sickness and recovering from sickness and all of that, like COVID. I was gonna Our example of COVID is me. I got COVID and then I brought it home from the jail.
Oh,
And
man.
then Ron got sick and then his brother got sick. Sam got sick and then Sam passed away.
Oh,
So
no.
in my head, I gave him COVID and he died.
Yep.
So I lived with that, what's it called? Guilt.
Yeah.
I lived with the guilt of that. So it's a lot from COVID that people like have experienced. So therapy, I mean, I just got freed of it at Ignite. Thank you, Jesus. But
Okay.
I
Good.
did. I
Yes.
I recognize the depression. I recognize like my eating. I recognize like me feeling guilty from living.
Yeah.
Like I felt guilty. I was like, how are you out here living? And these people have passed away. And
Yep.
it's a very I guess depressing state to be in, but you
Yeah.
continue to live. So people see you and they're like, oh, you're so happy. And yeah.
I know.
So
I
how
know.
if you are out here and you're kind of faking the funk like I was, and
Mhm.
and you're surviving, which is really
Yeah.
what you're doing, like how do you like reach out to your friends and try to be a little transparent to say, hey, I'm struggling.
Well, one, you have to be honest with yourself that you are struggling.
Yeah.
I got it. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
That's our like go-to. So if
Right.
you're not honest with yourself about the fact that you are struggling, you're not really going to be able to communicate that with someone else. So I like
Hmm.
to say, find your top 3 individuals that you're willing to go there with. Like you're willing to be honest with, be vulnerable
Hmm.
with, share, that you feel like you're going to be safe. Because a lot of times you hear people say this is a safe space. A
Right.
lot of therapists say it. I don't say it. And the only reason why I don't say it is because I don't determine it.
You don't determine if it's a safe space.
I don't.
Okay.
I want it to be. And for me, I feel like I created one, but I don't determine if you think it's safe,
Right.
right? Um, so you have to determine, do I feel like that person talking to them is safe for me? So one, recognizing if you are struggling, admitting it to yourself, finding like your top 3 people that you're willing to communicate that with, that you feel safe, that you feel like you won't be judged and the
Mhm.
information won't be shared, and then seeking the resources from there. Because maybe sometimes you just need an ear, and you do have that. Some people do have that, um, but not always to the level that they need, right? just that first surface level, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you talked to me about this.
Yeah.
What do you think you want to do about it? Do you know any local therapists? Then moving on to that next level, that'll really get you where, cross that bridge.
Yeah.
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 And
Somebody said check on your strong friends.
yeah, let's talk about checking on your strong friend. Because I think sometimes we check on our strong friend. We're like, girl, how you doing? Oh, girl, I'm good.
And that's it. And all is well in the
And
land.
I have checked on you. I have checked on you, okay? I have texted
You good,
you.
girl? Yeah,
You
I'm good. All
said
right.
you was good.
All right. Let's go get this coffee.
For real. You said you was good. Whole time you're melting inside, right?
Right.
So change up the way you check on people, right? Sometimes you just take a meal over, treat somebody once in a while, go over and play a hand of cards. Maybe it's not really a conversation, but more a vibe check,
Right.
energy check.
Yeah.
And what's the best thing that happened to you this week? If someone's like, girl, nothing. Well, what's going on? Because if you would have went over there and said, how you doing? Oh, girl, I'm good. I'm good, But if
Yeah.
you change up the question, it's like, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? Like, girl, nothing.
So we're
Oh,
digging a little deeper with the
there we
questions.
go. Oh, so
Hello,
what
beyond the
happened?
surface.
Then what happened this week? Because you can't tell me everything's good now. Because I
Right.
just said, like, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? And you said nothing.
Right.
So then what's been going on this week? Right?
You have to kind of let yourself be vulnerable with your friends.
You
So they
do.
can,
It's hard.
right?
You
It
do.
is hard.
It's hard. Like, I
Because
get people in
people don't like to hear
therapy.
that.
I'll be in therapy. They'll be in therapy with me for, let's say, 2 months.
Mhm.
And we're starting to really get somewhere. And they're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm about to cry. Why am I about to cry? And like get upset about it. And it's like,
It's me.
it's okay. It's okay. Right? Like get upset with the fact that they're going to have an emotional release. So being vulnerable is hard. Like you've come into this space, you pay for a service that 9 times out of 10, this is probably what's going to happen, and you're upset about it. And if it happens there, you can imagine how it is trying to talk to a friend or a family member.
Right. Yeah.
Super protective shield,
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, like the crying part makes you weak. It makes your peer weak.
Oh yeah.
So it goes back to the superwoman. It's the stigma we have. I'm a superwoman. I got to do this. I got to do that. I have to handle all of this. So crying. I mean, that's how we was brought up. Crying is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
So if you're crying, that means you're weak. So you're kind of like, how are you not being this strong person? So suck them tears up and
Yeah.
go on about your business, because now we're just operating now. We're not even moving in any feelings. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It really is tough to be vulnerable with people. So I'm not thinking like after this podcast, everybody's going to find their top 3 people and they're going to let it all hang out. Not necessarily, but identify if you are struggling and which route you want to take. Maybe you just want to seek therapy.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't have 3 people that you want to talk to or that you want to explore this conversation with, and that's okay. But I think the main thing is identifying something's not right. Something's definitely not right with me.
So checking on our friends. This is checking on our family, our friends, just not saying, hey, how you're doing, just saying what are your highs? Because I do that with my grandkids.
Yeah.
I think you taught me that. I think you did. In one
Yes,
of
we
your
talked about the
seasons.
rose and the thorn. That whole
Yes,
thing.
and I
Yeah.
say that to the kids. What was your rose and what was your thorn? And my grandkids will say, "Oh, this was like the most amazing thing." And I said, "Well, what was your thorn?" And that's the hard time you had today. Like, was there something you had a hard time with? And they'll say it, so they really like understand. Okay, well, was the good thing, and this was the bad thing. So
Yes.
yeah, well, thank you for that.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And you can use it for adults because we use it. My husband and I do it when we go around and they do their rose and thorn, we do our rose and thorn too.
Really?
Yeah, you're modeling this. Like we're modeling always to kids, whether we want to or not. We're
Mhm.
constantly modeling. And the way we respond to them, the way we engage with them, the way you engage with other people,
Right.
we're showing them how to do life. Right.
Yeah.
And even if you're not trying to, right? No one's trying to teach not necessarily is trying to teach their kids bad habits and behaviors, but we do because of the things that we do. So a couple of weeks ago, my goddaughter came home after her softball game. We came home and she had like slammed something on the table and, was moving real, just like she had an attitude or was angry, upset. And I said, is something the matter? And she said, no, I'm fine. And I said to her, I said, it's okay if you choose not to talk to me about it right now, but it's not okay for you to display behavior that tells me you're not okay and then tell me you're fine.
Right.
Because I can see that you're not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And boom, conversation immediately.
So that opened the conversation up.
It opened the conversation. So, but she learned that. She learned that when I'm not okay and I have a problem, I can slam things. I can
right.
up and puff. I can stomp my feet. I can do all the things. But the way we engage with our kids and the people around us, it's just modeling. That's all we're doing.
So, and we're teaching them the behaviors to have and to exude. So that way, if you know, okay, if I'm having a bad day, let me communicate that instead of slamming something, because now you're curving that behavior.
Yes, absolutely. And given a space, like you can say you don't want to talk about it right now. We can revisit it later, but you don't get to act out and then tell me everything's okay. That is not okay.
So giving space. I like that.
Yeah. Yes.
What's wrong? You could tell me right now. Oh, little woo, woo, woo.
Yeah. Yes.
But they don't want to talk
overbearing
right now. I know.
Yeah, it's very overbearing.
And just giving them space, not even giving them a little boundaries to say, hey, I don't want to, because I'm like that. I don't want to talk about right now. I'm going to go for a walk out the door. I'll be back. But for other people, I'm like, well, tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
But here I am on it.
Yeah. At that point, it becomes about you and not about the person.
Yeah.
And you're displaying this behavior like you care about what's going on with them and you want to help. But are you? Because I'm communicating to you that now is not the time and you're not respecting that.
I like that.
Yeah.
So when you are respecting people's time, so do you wait for them to come back to you and say, hey, thank you, I appreciate that. Do you want to talk about it again? Or do you this is the good friend checking on my strong friends. If you don't want to talk about it now, am I going to go back to that and revisit it?
I do. if they don't come back to me, I have. Yeah. I guess you got to just take the pulse and see.
Yeah.
And see, read the room, feel the energy, and go from there.
If they don't want to, maybe they don't want to talk to you about it.
Right.
Because they
be clear about what they said. Make sure you actually heard it. I don't want to talk about this versus I don't want to talk about this right now versus I don't want to discuss this with you. Right. So we have to pay attention to what people are saying. We have to hear their words. And sometimes we have to seek clarity. Not sometimes, excuse me, all the time. All the time we need to seek clarity. It's a very important part of the communication process. So I don't want to talk about this. Okay. All right. I respect that. And we don't have to talk about it. Do you maybe want to talk about it later? Or do you want me to just leave it alone?
Right.
And, seeking that extra clarity you could be done there.
Yeah. Because one thing Ron and I do, I don't even know where we probably go to a few couple marriage retreats. So one thing that we've learned is I communicate something. He listens, but I ask him, what did he hear? What did you hear me say? Because sometimes he hears me say something different than what I'm trying to communicate. And I was like, well, that's not what I was saying. I was actually trying to say this. And he was like, well, that's not what I heard. I heard this. So we are big on, what did you hear? What did you hear? Because sometimes, a lot of times, I'm a little, I don't know, not as forward with my words. So I'm assuming that he picked up on, we've been together 17 years. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm giving you half the sentence,
Yes.
you to finish the rest of the sentence. And he's like,
Right.
that's not what I received and I heard. So I think that helped us a lot with what did you hear me say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Communication, you have the sender and the receiver, right? And the roles switch
Hmm.
and you see clarity and you restate. You know, it's a whole process, just learning how to verbally communicate. And sometimes I do exercises with couples um, or groups where
Hmm.
I give them a set of directions, and there's a picture that the one person has, and I give a set of directions, and we read them to the person, and they have to draw the picture based on the set of directions. And the picture looks nothing like the picture that I gave the person.
Hmm.
I used these same words, right? Two people get the directions, two people draw a picture,
Right.
two totally different pictures. We have different perspectives.
Oh, that's a cool exercise.
Yeah, based on our experiences, we have different
Hmm.
perspectives, right? When I got with my husband, he would get a bill in the mail and he would write out a check or whatever form of payment he wants to make. He would put it back in an envelope that they provide for you, and he would mail that baby off. And I'd be like, why did you do that?
I got one here too.
2
I got
weeks. But I survived my whole life. I was always paying something late or coming up with a payment plan. That was
you
just the way.
found this book. Balance. Man,
What book?
this pension
Ain't no
loan.
book.
This is pension loan to get me ahead.
Hello. Listen. We had two different perspectives when it came
Yes.
to finances,
Right.
right? So and
Hmm.
we all have different perspectives. Just because there's information out there about something doesn't mean that we all received it the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Because I think a lot of times that the growing up part is learning. You're still learning people. Like Jasmine said, I'm learning how to listen without responding.
Oh,
Because
that's hard.
are you actively listening or you
Mhm,
just waiting, all right, I'm gonna wait for you to finish what you're gonna say because I already got
mhm.
in my head because I'm finna get you. Right. Because I don't even want to hear what you're saying right now because I'm next. So go
Yeah.
ahead, get your words out. So that is growth of learning to listen without responding. Just listen to your partner because sometimes your partner is actually, they're being vulnerable a little bit.
They
Going,
are on their level, yes, and it looks different for everybody.
oh,
And
say that again. Wait.
being vulnerable looks different for everybody.
Wow.
Being
That's
vulnerable
good.
isn't just crying.
That's good.
There's people that's crying that are not being vulnerable. They're full of it. Okay, okay, but being vulnerable is looks different across the board.
That's so good.
You
Because
know,
you make everybody into like this. Oh, well, if you're vulnerable, you look like this, or you'll act like this, or you'll respond like this. And I should see your vulnerability through my eyes when
yeah,
they are at their level. Go ahead, therapy. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You got it. You got it.
yeah, it just looks different. I think we cookie cutter people. We cookie cutter kids. We
Yeah.
cookie cutter kids a lot.
Mhm.
I see that a lot, and we don't listen to children.
Yeah.
We don't listen to children, and we have to do better with that. Um, they need a space to be heard because if anybody gets cut off, or if anybody we're listening to with the just desire to respond, it's kids.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you're saying let the kids talk or
let the kids talk. Let the kids talk. I definitely grew up in an era where you ain't talk. What? You ain't got nothing to say about this. Ain't nothing to be said.
it's adult conversation going in the room with your bag of potato chips.
Bye.
See you 5 hours later.
Deuce. And this isn't even like we're having company and you're
Right.
not that. I mean, you said something to me, mom, and it crushed my little heart, and I
Yeah.
can't say a word. And now I must go to my room.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's what I'm
So
talking
sad
about.
for the little girls and the boys that I know better now to not do that.
I know better
That's
now.
so sad.
Very
That
sad.
and if you don't get ahead of that with expressing, like teaching your kids of the habit of expressing, like they really grow into What did my kids say I was? Unemotionally available
Yes.
because I don't know how to deal with these emotions. They're way beyond the surface.
Yeah, they either start to repress,
Yeah.
and never speak about how they feel, or
Hmm.
they rage when they feel because they didn't get an opportunity to speak. I'm like,
Oh, right,
oh,
right.
hey, I'm gonna say what I need to say. No, 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 you're gonna, oh no, you're gonna play me. I'm gonna get my
Right.
point across. It
Because
is
I
what it
did it
is
before.
because I ain't never done it before.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it shows up. There goes that fruit. There
Right.
goes those roots of growing up in a home where you can't say, Mom, you made me feel like this when you said that.
Hmm.
Or I don't like your boyfriend. It makes
Yeah.
me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Or he's mean to me when you're not here.
Yeah.
Like whatever the case may be, you don't get an opportunity to speak, never listened to, never heard. It's going to bear fruit.
Something's going to come of it.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be some fruit from that tree.
Wow. That was good, Jen. That was really deep. That
Yeah.
really was. And I just want to make sure that, we are giving tools to everybody so that way you can get your kids to express, give them space. Because
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing to even give kids space, or even your spouse or even your friends. Like,
Yeah.
give them space to communicate.
Hmm.
Don't Shannon
Give
Sharp
other
people.
options. Stop saying that, girl. Come on.
Don't cancel me on.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
I could go the whole tangent about Shannon Sharp, but we gotta stay focused.
But
Um,
giving space. I
yeah, give space.
love that you can communicate and say, hey, to the kids or to your siblings. I am learning now to communicate like with my siblings a lot better. Me, I was like, hey y'all, how you doing? Little pat, pat, pat. All right, y'all go have a good day. Let me cash out you some money here.
Yeah,
And then that's the space because I'm operating out of survival. So there
yes,
wasn't really time for relationships with each other and just getting to know each other. Like me and Didi right now, child, we talk on the phone on the way to work, we talk on the way home.
yeah,
We were really in survival mode. So there wasn't opportunity to just be like, hey, we're siblings, but we got each other's back, but are we like in a good relationship, like communication?
wow. Yeah.
And yeah,
Mm,
once
that's
you come,
good.
yeah, and I'm learning at this
Yeah,
big age that, communication and space and listening. I'm a good
yeah.
listener now. What do you have to say? I've got to
Mhm.
make sure I'm not as forceful as you said. Come
Yeah,
on, sit down.
yeah. Spit it out.
Get some coffee. Let's talk about this.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I definitely would say when it comes to kids, let's talk
Hmm.
about kids. I
Yeah.
really do love working with children. Um, I mean, because you get an opportunity to reset the root. You get an opportunity
Yeah.
to work with the parents and teach them new skills that they can teach their kids and they can change these habits. That's why I really love it. But
Hmm.
I would have to say if we're going to take some takeaways, right, with kids.
Okay.
So people who have children, who have young
Hmm.
children
And grandchildren
and
and
grandchildren,
children.
yes, you can start to
Mhm.
implement that with them as well. Um, a lot of times we get into the habit of saying, "How was school? How was your day? How was
Yeah.
practice? How was the game?" Don't do it. Use open-ended questions. Okay.
Where they have to answer with a longer sentence
Yes,
besides
we have
good.
to formulate a sentence or something. Yeah. So, like instead of school, I say like, "What was the funniest thing that happened in school today?" And you get like a whole story, or um, "What was the most difficult part of school for you today?"
Hmm.
Right? They can't say good or no. Right?
Right.
So let's practice open-ended questions. You can get a whole list online. You can get a whole
Oh,
list
that's good.
online. Yes, you can look up conversation starters for kids, for
Hmm.
parents and child. So that's one thing. The other thing is something you could practice every day is the rose and the thorn. What was your rose of the day? What was your thorn of the day? It's very simple. And then teach the kids to ask it back to you. Right?
Oh, right, because you're opening
Yeah.
communication. Come on,
Yes, we're teaching
dialogue.
them how to communicate, right? So communication is reciprocal.
Mhm,
So you want them to ask you as well. Um, Also, offer other forms of communication. Sometimes communicating verbally could be extremely anxiety ridden. It could be very uncomfortable, especially depending on the topic. So, a
mhm.
journal. My daughter and I had a communication journal where we it was just like one of those back in the day when you did your book report.
Oh, yeah.
And you put it in a little plastic thing um, with some line paper, and I would write to her like a little bit about my day and what I thought about something that maybe she did, whether it was good or I didn't really like it.
Mhm.
And then I would put it like on her bed, and then she would write back to me, and then she would put it on my bed, and then it would just go back and forth until we got to a place where we were able to communicate better verbally.
Oh, that's such a great idea.
Yeah. It worked wonders. And now my kids write letters now too.
Mhm.
Like when things get really hard, and they don't want to come to me face to face, they'll write a letter and I'm fine with that. And
Because it's
so,
still communication.
yeah, it's still communication. So sometimes it's just hard.
So is that you respecting their boundaries of they don't want to talk about it right now, but they can communicate it a different way?
Yeah, you can say that. And
Mhm.
I just think it's very important for them to know that there's other forms of communicating, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
it's just not going to be a verbal exchange right now. Maybe the letter leads to one.
Right. I like that journal thing going back and forth communicating that way.
Yeah, it was
Love
great.
it. Yeah. So, what advice would you like to leave regarding therapy for our viewing audience? Guys, if you love Jen, can y'all give her some hand claps?
Uh,
Little thumbs up in the comments. We had such a good time. So give us some thumbs up. What advice would you like to leave for therapy for our
mm.
viewers?
What advice would I like to leave about
Tools.
therapy? Okay, I'll say this one. Um, Explore your options when it comes to therapy. Just
Mhm,
consider it. You know, ask me some questions, explore around on the internet. Just explore the idea of what it would be like to have a person who is a trained listener. A
right.
trained listener, like that's a totally different level. Someone that's not there to give you advice, because that's not what it is. Not there to give you advice, there to hold a mirror up to you to help you reflect, there
Mhm,
to teach you how to take accountability because it's lacking a lot of adults. Um, and to give you a bag full of tools that you can use to help navigate this world, to help navigate your relationships, to help navigate your new journey, your
yeah,
growth, to help you explore the things that you buried so deep down that you almost think they don't exist until you're triggered. And you don't want to think it's related to that. Instead, you want to blame it on the person who you think triggered you,
yes.
right? That they're going to slowly uncover all of that and help you unravel those roots, help you
Mhm,
fertilize those roots, help you replant so you can bear the best, sweetest, most healthy, boundary setting fruit that you ever had in your
yes.
life. Okay?
One of the comments said, "Do you take Blue Horizon Blue Shield? Take Horizon Blue Shield on your couch."
That is funny.
Oh, this is
um,
just so amazing.
this was great. I love the conversation. I love to talk about
Yeah.
therapy and healing and growth.
So Jen has you wanna plug your podcast? Jen has a
Oh
new
yeah,
podcast, y'all.
I have a new podcast, y'all. I thought it was off the ground. It's still getting up. Um,
That's all right, it's there. One
right.
right, Reverend Nikki said, "Take one step."
I know that's right. Cultivating Wellness podcast. Our first episode is already up. You can find us on YouTube, just Cultivating Wellness.
Mhm.
Our first episode is up, and I love it. And I want everybody to watch it
Yes,
because it is about a funeral concierge service.
amazing.
And Yes,
love
who
it.
knew? Who knew that this
Who
service
knew?
even existed, right? But not only is it about this service that this Black woman created and owns,
Yes.
and operates, it's also about how to navigate the funeral process, how to navigate and protect your
Mhm.
insurance policy from
Right.
the hands of a funeral home. Like it's a lot of gems in there. So I hope you guys go listen to it. You can also
Yes.
follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at Cultivating Wellness. Yeah, please
Yes.
go follow.
Yes. Please go follow, like, subscribe, all that. All
Yeah,
y'all know I be telling y'all to go do. Please go on my good girlfriend Jen's
help a sister
podcast.
out.
Sister out. Cause I listen, y'all know I be like, share, subscribe, like,
Yes.
subscribe, everybody. Like and
If y'all
share.
follow Shannon Sharp, come follow us.
Right. Cause hello. We we ain't gonna do Unc like that. He gonna come find us.
I know, right? I listen to him religiously, so I need to stop.
You do?
I do because I think it's very entertaining. I don't
It is.
It's like my escape from everything else that I have to listen to on a daily
Right.
basis.
Cause he ain't giving therapy.
Ciao.
So real quick, what do you think about those types of platforms when there should be? You think there should be a therapist like sitting in with them?
No, I don't. Because that's not a the therapy is not platform driven.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
therapy, there's therapists on platforms that are sharing basic information.
Yeah.
They're sharing basic, it ain't no therapy. To be
Right.
clear, anything that I shared on here, it was not therapy. Right? This is basic information. You could probably Google it. Some of it is my own my own creations, right?
Right.
But this is basic information. This isn't therapy. But the vibe you're getting is probably what you would get if you sat across from me in therapy, right? So no, I don't think that. I think that it is just a platform to share information, to share experiences, and that's fine. And if that's what people want to do, that's just fine. It's okay. I don't have
And
a
we
problem with
should
it.
have and we should get comfortable with our therapist. So in saying that, if we go a couple times and we are not comfortable with the therapist, should be
Oh,
switched.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. I I tell my clients very early on, first session, maybe first or second session, um, you are not a prisoner here.
Wow.
You
Okay.
you can leave. You can communicate it with me. I would prefer that. But if you feel like you can't, don't. If you don't feel comfortable, if
Mhm.
I did something that you didn't like, I would prefer that you could talk to me about it because maybe it could be fixed. But if you don't feel like you can or you don't want to, don't. You're not forced to continue this relationship,
Right.
and neither am I.
Okay. I
And
like
that's
that.
to be clear, right? This is a relationship, so it's reciprocal. Sometimes I may feel like I cannot serve you for whatever
Mhm.
reason, and I'm going to properly discharge you and make sure you have the referrals that you need to move forward. And you may feel like I'm not the right fit for you, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
There's
And you
somebody
should
out there
leave.
that's a good fit.
Yes, like it's a service at the end of the day. You have to feel
Yeah.
safe, you have to feel comfortable, you have to feel heard. If the vibe ain't right, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
Well, thank you for tuning in, y'all. We're gonna have to have Jen back because this was really refreshing.
Oh, I'm glad. We covered a lot of different things.
Yeah, we did. We're gonna have to collab again.
Sounds
It
good.
would be great.
I would
So
love to.
thank you for coming on Beyond the Surface. We definitely went beyond the surface on this one.
Yeah.
We definitely went pretty deep, and I appreciate all the viewers who were checking in and giving us your beautiful questions because without you guys watching us, we would not be here. So we appreciate you guys
Yeah.
tuning in. Don't forget next week you have to tune in. We are doing singles. We're doing singles next week. So
Ooh.
apparently the single people said it's a cesspool out there in the dating in the dating world. That's what the folks were saying. It's
Yeah.
cesspool. So we want to see what's going on out there with the single
Oh,
people.
that's
So
gonna be good.
in next week, next Thursday, 6:30. We will be here with some singles to talk about what's going on. But we love you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
coming by and giving your beautiful words and your expertise.
You're welcome.
I am so proud of you and
Thank
your
you.
journey in life and your family and everything. And I
Thank you.
always look forward to hearing what you have to say, because you always drop in like little nuggets, not little nuggets. You always drop in nuggets, because I got to stop doing the little thing, because people do a
Oh, people
little.
get offended, but girl, my nuggets ain't little.
Little business. Sorry, y'all.
Oh
Segue.
God.
You're dropping so many gems for us to operate in, and tools for us to use with our relationships, with our kids, with our siblings, with our families, with our significant others.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So everyone, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to go to Cultivating Wellness Podcast.
Yes. Yes.
Subscribe, share over there, and she should be on this one. So yeah, everybody, we'll see you next week. Thank you all for tuning in.
Bye,
See you
y'all.
later.